And go.
Maybe.
All right. Good morning, everybody. Just give us a couple minutes. We didn't want to do that countdown timer because we felt like, well, it annoys everybody. And so we're going to just do a couple things so that we can start streaming live. Yes, I am live. Give me 1 second. The default is that it only shares to my friends live, and I have to fix the setting. So
I'm not really sure why.
I don't know about you, but I have no signal.
Huh.
Yeah. All right. Well, as I start, we can go ahead and kind of get started on the topic. There we are. Okay.
Yeah.
Sorry, technical difficulties.
So anyway, we had put the. I'm not even sure if we should be able to say this on Facebook, but we put the title as "Sex, Kids, and Rock and Roll."
And Chris, what did you mean by that? Chris picked the topic, by the way.
I did. It's so really. I'm trying to get this shared here.
You can't
push
it because it's not public yet.
Okay.
If you could talk, I'll do it.
Sure.
Okay.
So yeah, I think we had a topic just in talking around a few things. And it was about relationships, about marriage, about kids. So a lot of topics that popped up in a short amount of time. And I guess really what came about was, how, and I think we talked about this last week, but how we prioritize ourselves versus kids versus marriage and what comes first. And the topic of, do we have, we have obligations to take care of our kids, or we have obligations to do stuff. But you don't really have obligations for sex or your relationship.
I like how the word just embarrasses Chris. He's like, sex.
So we'll see at what point we get the stream shut down.
We'll call it intimacy.
Well, we'll see if sex ends up working.
Okay.
But just the whole idea of, it's, we're doing it for the kids, or, placing that priority first and just calling it the norm. I think that's really where it came from.
Yeah. I mean, it also came from observations of our own, like, friends, family, coworkers, that, I posted the other day about people avoiding implementation, people avoiding having to do the work and say, hey, let me go read another book. Let me join another class. Let me join another mastermind, because I'm avoiding the work that I have to do in my business. And then what I saw was also people doing this with their own marriage and relationship, using their kids to avoid the fact that intimacy is an important part of my marriage, using my children to avoid the fact that, I don't like my husband, but I do. But if I didn't, or using my kids to avoid the fact that I'm not even comfortable with my own self. And this is how that topic started was, so many people were talking about, oh, my kids come first, my kids first. And, we had a friend that was doing this, and we went to visit them, and it was saying the fact that their marriage is not very strong, and they're using their kids as an excuse to, like, not build that relationship with their husband. It's extreme avoidance of what's really important, because as much as, we could say it, or as much as we can think it, that our kids are the most important, to be honest, when it comes down to it, if you do not have an intimate relationship with your spouse or your partner, you do not have a strong relationship. And it's something that a lot of people don't talk about. And so we wanted to talk about like how important is sex in a marriage, right?
Very.
How important is it? Like if you haven't touched your husband in a year, like, hey, like what's going on? Or if you haven't touched your wife in a year, hey, what's going on? So it's a really interesting topic. And how does it relate to business? How does it relate to us as entrepreneurs? It does, guys. It does so much because of stress, anxiety that we have. And that builds at home and that builds in our marriages, in our relationship. And it affects our intimate relationships that we have with our spouses, but also with our children.
Yep.
Mm-hmm.
And I will say this, coming from somebody who, used to be addicted to porn and some kind of other outlet, it's a real thing, is marriage, sex, as much as we don't want to admit it and say, oh, it's just the natural way that things happen. You have a kid, we got to focus. It's the norm. It's typical.
Yeah.
And the same thing, like you said, with business is like you get into this thing and you're like, oh, this is normal. But really, what is normal?
It's whatever you want it to be.
Yeah. So for me, it was all about, I think this is something that I learned over the years is like, that extreme transparency. That's what I'm practicing right now, is extreme transparency.
Mm-hmm.
But it's normal is only normal because you're not saying something. I don't is my own take on that. Until you're actually like fully transparent and actually open about it, do things get easier, and then you start to change that.
I wouldn't say the normal. It's you look at things as the norm when you don't say anything.
Yeah, I'm using air quotes here.
Yeah. But I think it greatly affects our relationships and our business and our life. When we observe, how do we avoid like that extreme avoidance of situations, whether we're using our children, like, hey, let's go have a drink so I don't have to have a difficult conversation with you, to let me go read another book, or I'm busy because I don't want to face the issues that I'm currently facing within myself. So, people ask us, how have we worked on our relationship? And to be honest, it was a long time coming. It's not always great. When I've lost 60 pounds in the weight loss journey that I've been going through. Cause if you guys follow me, I practice the carnivore way of living. Over 3 years, I've lost 60 pounds. But when I had that weight, I didn't want anyone to touch me with a 10-foot pole because I wasn't even comfortable with myself. And that affected our relationship, our life, our marriage, our sex life. And there were issues that we had to go through to fix that, and to counseling, and to like say, hey, like this sucks right now and I'm not happy and you're not happy. And how do we go through that? But what I wanted to the point is that affected my businesses. It affected my businesses because I was unhappy with my life and I didn't have that foundation at home to come to. I didn't have that stability or consistency to come home to, because when you're stressed out at work and people are calling out and you have quality complaints and you're not even sure you're going to make payroll, or your profit sucks, you can't come home to that inconsistency because it will just destroy us from the inside out. And it all came back down to our marriage wasn't great, but it was because I wasn't great. I wasn't happy with myself. I wasn't exercising. I wasn't eating right. And then it affected our sex life. And I would probably in one to blame for that. And it affected it tremendously. And until I really looked at, like, I couldn't even have a healthy relationship, let alone sex life, until I worked on myself. And then how you see that reflect in the business, and how you're happy and your marriage is more consistent, and you understand yourself and your relationship, you then become, this is going to sound so funny, we become better leaders, bosses. And it's mainly because I understood myself more and was more comfortable with myself. And then I saw that growth with my marriage, right? And I saw that growth with my business.
Mm-hmm.
And then lastly, I saw that growth with my children. I told somebody the other day, I was raising my children like a dysfunctional company. I was the horrible boss, screaming at them, micromanaging them, and they were bad employees. that were like calling out and not listening. And I said to my God, oh my God, like I'm treating my children like horrible employees, but I'm a horrible boss. But meanwhile, I was really being a great leader inside the companies and I'd learned so much, but I hadn't brought that back like all the way around to my family and my relationships, which was really interesting. So I think it's so much of like health and like that mental clarity, mental health, mental fitness journey that we go through.
Yeah, I was going to say mental fitness.
But, you know, and then the reason we're bringing up the sex part is because nobody wants to talk about it. And I see there's a major issue. I talk to entrepreneurs every day and their marriages are not strong. But at the end of the day, intimacy is one of the most important parts of a strong marriage. And without a strong marriage, we're going to have a very hard time being a strong entrepreneur. And so we have a lot of people watching: Ashley, Faith, Benjamin, Amanda. And so we just wanted to be transparent in that. Like, you know, I struggled years ago, like with even wanting to I was the person. And I want to know if anybody here like that, like, don't touch me. Don't touch me. Don't hug me. I don't like when people touch me. I have a little bubble around me. Please don't get inside of it. And that was because I was so uncomfortable with myself. I was one of those weird people who wasn't a hugger. Like if someone would walk up to hug you, I would like.
Meanwhile, my love languages are physical touch and words of affirmation.
Yeah. So his love language is physical touch. And I'm over here like, don't touch me.
Polar opposite from yours. Yeah. And I just want to say, by the way, you know, in our progression of marriage and dating, or I'd say more so with the marriage, because the dating, you know, 2 years, but is that again, just the whole physical touch and words of affirmation is just, I wanted to connect. I wanted, like, you saw yourself as maybe, you know, not so great, or you thought yourself as overweight or whatever. But I was trying to just connect and reach out with you. And I saw you as beautiful, but because there was that pushback in that bubble, I started to get down on myself and doubt myself, because I was also really insecure about myself, extremely. And so that was also like stacking up as well, is that I was becoming insecure about myself as well. And it kept this film. I'm trying to remember what I said the other day. It was about
overstimulated moms clubs.
Yeah, that's great.
That's funny. And Ashley said, thank you so much. You guys are so dope. Thank you for sharing. Hey man, you know, Ashley, for the longest time, I avoided the word like coach or mentor, because I didn't want to be one of those people that said, oh, you know, I'm 20 and I tried something one time and now I'm going to coach everybody on how to do it. And I feel like I've made so many mistakes. I have now I have an adult child, a teenage child, a young child. I've had businesses that have failed. I have sold them. I've had marriages that have failed and I have a successful one. And I said, I feel like now approaching 45, I'm almost to the point to where I feel like I can give some advice on like how not to do. But back to Chris I had this bubble, right? And I just had, you know, Yaya 6, I had gained, you know, I mean, for all the women, especially women entrepreneurs or just women in the room, you just don't feel sexy. Like you just feel like crap. I wish Facebook would let me cuss, but I'm going to get banned one day.
I think crap is going to be bleeped out also.
Crap's going to be bleeped out. You just don't feel sexy. And you're just like, let me make the food, get this over with. I got to clean house. Please don't talk to me. Don't touch me. I want to go to sleep. And we lived like that for a little while and it drove us apart. And it wasn't fun. It wasn't fun. And it affected my ability to, make decisions in the business. It affected what type of mom I was, because I turned into like a crabby mom. I turned into a crabby boss because I had a crappy marriage for a little bit. The one thing I can say is that we worked at it. We went to therapy for different reasons, for different things that were our personal struggles. We brought in a mediator. If you've never had a mediator, one of my friends reached out to me and they had said their marriage is struggling. And he's like, I can't go to work every day. I can't run this business and come home and fight more. He's like, I'm fighting at the business. And I said, you try to get a mediator. If you don't know what a mediator is, like if you've ever been through a divorce, that's the first option because it's the cheapest.
Yeah.
A mediator is a great, just neutral party to help each other say what they need to say out loud without being interrupted, without any judgment. It's just a third party. It's not a therapist. There's mediators everywhere. They help with like divorces, custody issues, but they also just help you talk through it. All this earlier this year. Thank you for sharing, Ashley. She said she was going through all of this early this year, and it's a sucky place to be in. Like it just is.
Yeah.
And, I went through therapy and that really helped me because my last separation really messed me up in my head. And, no matter how skinny I get, I probably will still think I'm fat just because of the issues I went through. And I fight with that every day. I don't have an eating issue. It's a complex issue. It's that confidence in it. But, Chris went through his therapy too, to help him get through what he was going through. Because I was pushing him away and I had that bubble, right? The don't touch me. Now, if you meet me in person, I'll shake your hand and I'll give you a hug. I've changed over the years because I'm more comfortable with myself. But, as I was pushing away Chris, I pushed him into something else. And it's what a lot of us women get mad about.
Yeah.
When it comes to men, right? I pushed him into seeking more, I don't know how you want to call it.
Visual stimulus.
Because I didn't want to be intimate. I didn't want to work on our relationship. I didn't want to because I was going through my own issues. So I created more issues in our own marriage.
Yeah. And if there's one thing that I because I just had this aha moment the other day when we were talking about it. And I think everything just kind of fell back to literally the only thing that was behind all of it was insecurity. Like if at the end of the day, anything else, the only reason why somebody isn't transparent or, you seek something else out, in this case, porn or whatever it might be, is all based on insecurity. Because if I was open, if I was honestly secure with myself and had that openness with you, then I wouldn't have wanted that. I wouldn't have needed that because I got enough of it.
Yeah.
So that's what I learned. And, there's this bubble, literally like a film around you. And it's that insecurity that keeps you.
That was my bubble. Like I wasn't comfortable with myself, which is another form of being insecure. I'm older than Chris, if you guys don't know that. And so I'm bringing him on this journey of me, like learning myself and being comfortable and working on it. And if you haven't been to therapy, I think every adult should experience therapy at one time or another. And if you can't afford it or you don't want it, I'm not going to get religious, but a lot of churches, have people that you can talk to or groups or peer groups. But I think it's a great way to express yourself because I think when we say things out loud, it changes our perception of that thing to us once we say it out into the world.
And if you say it out loud, it becomes absolute truth. And the thing that scares people is that if they say it out loud and it isn't absolute truth, then they have to correct themselves or kind of take that shift back. And so when you say it out loud, it's an affirmation to the world. And if you say it, it has to be true. If somebody asks you to clarify, you start to go through this like mental game with yourself and you're like, oh shoot, wait, no, actually it's this. But until you actually like say it out loud and address it, you don't really get down to what it is.
So at the end of the day, for me to like be comfortable with myself and be a great mom, leader, person, sister, daughter, to be honest, I had to love myself. And, we talk about it a little bit, but not so much as in, what do I got to do to love myself? And so like, I wanted to look good. Like I wanted to be sexy to everybody, not just my husband.
Yeah.
But you want to look good. You want to love yourself. And what were those things that I needed? And it sounds freaking vain. And it is vain. It is. But at the end of the day, we're all driven by ego. That's why we love the sound of our own name. And once I figured out, and so for some people, it may have to do with their weight, and some people it doesn't. Maybe it has to do with other things or clothes or what they look like or makeup. I don't typically wear makeup. I don't need that, but I have that visual thing for myself that I need for me to love myself and feel good. And by doing those, then I feel sexy, right? And so I think it's so important that like, how is like this topic for the people that are joining? They're like, what the heck are they talking about? We're talking about like being comfortable with yourself, and how when we're not comfortable with ourselves, we avoid everything at all costs. We avoid ourselves. We avoid our partners. We avoid our marriage. We avoid our spouses because we're not comfortable. We don't love ourselves. We don't think we're sexy to ourselves. And that affects our intimacy with our marriages, our children, even an intimate relationship, not intimate, but a deeper relationship with other people. We don't have that ability. We just don't if we cannot love ourselves first. And what do you need to love yourself is the question.
And I think the one thing, the one word, the one, it's the counter to insecurity. It's the complete opposite. It's confidence. Like, to get rid of all that insecurity, the only thing you need is confidence, and start to do it in small doses.
So it's a great question. What do you need? I would love for people to put it in the chat if you're listening. I know it's a really uncomfortable topic, so not very many people are commenting, but I can see people are watching. What do you need to be confident? What do you need in yourself? Let's give you an example. For a woman, when we put on a pair of high heels, right? All of a sudden, the way that it lifts us and the way it makes our butts look, we automatically are injected with a tiny bit of confidence automatically, right? So what are some of the things, and maybe you don't even respond, what are some of the things you can do if you just take this back and think about it? What are some of the ways you can do to build that confidence little by little? Because what happens if we don't, and we keep doing things like let ourselves down, and, oh, I didn't hit the gym today, or Libby ate 3 cheeseburgers yesterday. Like at the end of the day, I realized I ate 3 cheeseburgers. I ate one for breakfast, lunch, and dinner.
I was actually,
I was like, but if we keep letting ourselves down little by little, like, not being able to do certain things, or we didn't go to the gym, we didn't work on this, we didn't implement that, we're eroding our confidence, right? It's eroding slowly and slowly.
So,
well, on the flip side, what are some small things that we can do to build that confidence? Like I said, putting on a pair of high heels sounds so, superficial and vain, but it does. It build, all of a sudden you get like this boost in confidence because you look good.
By the way, thank you, Jenna, for being open enough to drop in some comments there.
Yeah, I was the same way. After I had Yaya, I struggled. She's 6. The first 3, she was 2 or 3. And finally I said, you know what? I am done. I tried going to the gym every day, but it didn't matter because I was still eating crap. And I struggled, and I was so tired of like not feeling sexy because I associated it to my weight, and a lot of women do. Finally, I was just like, I went to a weight loss doctor. That's how I got the jump start.
Mm-hmm.
Like I needed a cheat code, whether it's cheating or not. I just needed something to push me, to give me the confidence to hold my hand to do it. And I'd lost 60 pounds. I was 210 pounds 3 years ago when I started my weight loss journey, when I started cutting out carbs and sugar. 210 pounds. I mean, incredible. But I completely get, that, you feel that way, and, it's a sucky feeling.
Can I talk to the nerdy guys for a second?
Yeah.
So for me, I want to give you an example because Jenna and Faith, you both shared some stuff, and thank you for that. So for me, something that was, building confidence or the insecurity. I know this is completely opposite, and some of you might get upset at me because it's totally something that I always get yelled about. But because I look so young, and because I
get mad at him because he looks so young,
and because I can't,
damn you,
I can't keep weight on as easily as others can.
He has
Um,
champagne problems.
that
Champagne problems.
that gave me a lot of like some extreme insecurity because as I grew up, I looked even younger. When I first started my audio career, I was I was running sound. I was setting up sound in bars, um, and they honestly wouldn't even let me in to the bars because I looked probably 8 years younger than I actually was at that time. So let's pretend like I was 18 or 21. I looked like I was 15. And
He
so
can't put weight on, and he looks young for his age.
yeah. And I wore oversized clothes too. So it made me look even younger and even smaller.
Yeah.
So just for that moment, like just thinking through it, I would always get looks and people turning around and looking at me as I walked into, and I started to build this extreme insecurity about like people watching me and like, what are they thinking of me and things like that. And I had to fight with that up until like, honestly, the last year. And I started to get comfortable with it and used to it. But some things that I did for my extreme insecurities is that I had to change it to the extreme. Things like wearing clothes that fit me or even tight clothes. I know this sounds silly, but wearing tighter clothes, just working out for me has really helped as well. And just making sure that for me, at least, finding ways to feel comfortable with looking young or not getting the credit that I felt I deserved, because people always give me crap, or would disregard me. I get along. I say I get along better with women than I do with men because it was always like kind of this feeling that I wasn't part of the club.
Yeah.
So for me, what I ended up doing is every morning I told myself, like, do I, like, looking in the mirror, do I look or do I feel amazing? And if it was maybe, or if it was no, I'd say then fix it right now.
Well, Jana just posted, she would go out and clean and she would look in the mirror and say, oh my gosh, like I don't feel pretty. And then she started to put makeup on every day. And again, some of these things sound vain, but they help us. That's why if you work from home, they say, don't roll over and you work in your pajamas. Get up, get dressed, fix your hair. Like, because then if you do that, it gives you more confidence to have a better day, carry out that day. But Chris, I love that topic because I think for all of our cleaning people listening, whether you're in residential cleaning, commercial cleaning, window cleaning, power washing, just the cleaning industry in general, sometimes our self-confidence is very low because our industry is perceived to be a very not glamorous profession. And I posted the other day on Facebook that my mission is to help elevate the world's perception of the cleaning industry. And I think, for those that are still cleaning in the field or, if you're out networking, carry yourself tall. I would show up to business meetings in a friggin' suit and high heels. And I'd be like, yes, I'm a cleaning lady. You got a problem with that? Because that can also affect some of our confidence when we're out mingling with our friends or even with our family. How many here think that your family just thought you were some cleaning lady until your business made more money than they did all put together? And even your family kind of looked down on you, and that kind of hurts or doesn't help your confidence because, our industry is looked down upon. Now, my family now, we all work together. They've come into the business. They love it. But it's that perception at the beginning doesn't help that confidence either. So there are different aspects in your life, whether it's our marriage or the industry we're in, our decision-making process, like Faith said, that can help that confidence or erode that confidence.
Yeah.
Yeah. And, poor Chris, this is our biggest fight. I'm going to tell you right now, this is mine and Chris's biggest fight is that he looks young and he's skinny. He cannot gain weight. But I've learned that I would give him crap about it. And, it really did hurt his feelings. And I didn't realize that because that was the thing that made him insecure or kind of chipped away at that self-confidence. The thing that made me insecure was my weight. And until we learn those things about each other, and one thing I want to give you guys, if you have not read the 5 Languages of Love. I highly recommend it. And I learned, like when we went to the mediator and we talked through things, that his love language was touch, physical touch. And I was in a place in my life where I was like, please do not touch me. And so that made it very hard for us. I just had a baby. I wasn't like feeling that great with myself. The business wasn't doing great because I just had a baby and it needed my attention. So it was all kind of falling apart all around me. And the only way I knew how to keep myself safe was to put myself in a fake little world or bubble, and retreat to it with another book, with another course, with saying the kids need me. I have to take them to soccer practice. They didn't pay soccer, football, basketball practice, volunteering for everything, so that I didn't have to address my issues. I would hide from them with saying yes to everybody and everything and helping everyone but myself.
Yeah.
That's all for the moms.
Yeah. So I do want to go back to the relationships, the marriages again, because I don't want to take that emphasis off of that, because I think that I'm not speaking for anybody, but I just worry that, people will retreat back to talking about business when in reality, we got to put more attention into marriage and that, because I was traveling on the road for 10 years.
Yeah.
And
if you guys have ever read Think and Grow Rich, and if you haven't, read it, one of the main reasons why all businesses fail is the wrong choice in partner or spouse, not business partner, life partner or spouse. So when Chris goes, we could talk about business all day long, but we need to take it back to marriage, he's right.
Yeah. Because I get really passionate about this, because for the last 10 or so years before COVID I saw a lot of infidelity. I saw the hookups, the one night stands, all that stuff happening on the buses, people trying to pull me into it. And I would get really huffy. I wouldn't say anything, but it really screwed with my brain, because it was something that I was always passionate about and committed to.
Yeah. When, if you guys don't know what Chris did, he was an audio engineer, so he toured all over the world.
Yeah. So
they're like buses. What's happening on the bus?
So just the fact of, the groupies and people wanting to have a closer connection to the band and with the crew. But it was all because there was some layer of insecurity or lack of transparency in their relationship. And yeah, they might have had a very fancy, a very cush job or career, made lots of money, but what the hell does it even matter if it doesn't mean anything? Yeah.
Yeah.
So for me, it's something that I'm really passionate about, is healthy relationships. And I don't want to take the foot off the gas with talking about that, because if right now you're feeling a little bit awkward because it's just, and I don't want to call anybody out, but just if you feel awkward and you feel like you don't want to talk about it much, but you know that there's something there that you got to address, just lean into it. And the first thing I can say is creating that dialogue, starting to go through the process. There's always something you can do right now. It's not like I have to wait for something or I have to wait to meet with a mediator. There's always something that you can do now to start that change.
With yourself. That's where it starts.
Yeah.
I can agree with Chris. My past relationship, I had 10 times more money than I have right now. We had Ferraris in the driveways, 360 Modino Ferrari, sports bikes, a Harley Davidson, a $500,000 bus, a house on the ocean in Tampa. We owned a bar. But all that money came at a cost, because I was in the most horrible relationship that I'd ever been in my life. And because that was so dysfunctional, the businesses were dysfunctional. The life was dysfunctional. My kids endured horrible growing up, my 26-year-old Billy. And it all started because of our dysfunction at home, between the two of us. And I will say, I'm to blame as well, because of just being young and only know what I know. But looking back and then looking at now, saying I have a healthier relationship now which in turn, it will get me to where I want to go versus the other way where we had all the money, but no connection, no anything. It meant nothing, absolutely nothing. And it crumbled as fast as it rose. It just imploded because there was no core foundation. There was no structure between me and my ex-husband. We weren't technically married, but we were together long enough to be common law.
Yeah.
But we had no core foundation, no structure. And he was miserable and went to drinking. I was miserable and retreated to the kids. And it created this just like life of misery that grew and grew and grew and spun out of control, to be honest. But we had lots of money. And our businesses were horribly dysfunctional. And then that's why they did all implode eventually. Because we had no support system. We, as in me and my ex, as the owners, we didn't even love or support ourselves, let alone each other.
And I would even lean into the thought of separate businesses still will implode if that relationship isn't rock solid.
Absolutely.
Even if they're not, even if they're not involved in the business. And
so one thing I learned from that relationship is complete and pure transparency. Poor Chris. Complete and pure, and poor my employees, our team too, because Libby I have to say it. Like if there's something going on, there's something bothering me, there's something I like, there's something I don't like, something I did, if I messed up something, or if I have a lack of trust, I will say it. Whether it's nice or not, or yes or no, I can't keep it in because I know what will happen if you do. And that was my affirmation to myself when that relationship ended and my prior relationship ended. And so poor Chris then starts dating me and he's like, I don't know what to do with this girl.
And I was the least transparent person because I was so insecure about myself and what other people thought.
Yeah.
And that was not a good mix at first.
No. But Chris, do we have anything else we want to share before we wrap up? I think my message is, what are you going to do to love yourself, to build that inner confidence that you need to have an intimate relationship, marriage, and then these things translate to our children and our businesses. Because we had a friend reach out and they were asking about like our marriage. And we asked, well, how's your sex life? And it wasn't great. It was a long time. And I was like, oh my God, like, eventually, like, how do you build that intimacy, that trust, that foundation? Because it is so important, even though we don't think it is.
Yeah. And I think the thing there is when I said, and I kind of teased at it before, was there's always something that you can do right now to start to work on that. And that's creating little moments of intentionality, the smallest ways possible, which we started doing with
morning dates,
the morning dates,
date mornings.
And then we started adding into it with the evenings, other little things, but just tiny moments of intentionality that aren't about other things. It's about the person in front of you, or even about yourself without distraction.
Yes. And we take it in further. And this is a whole nother topic, but we have our own vivid visions. The family has a vivid vision. All of the businesses have vivid visions. And we also have our own values. I have my own values. Chris has his own values. The family has their values. We call them inner scorecards and outer scorecards. These are personal things. And so if I'm truly living my values, they'll reflect in my outer scorecard. And so this is like a whole nother talk, but what I want to say to this is, if you don't even know what you want, like if you know that there's a gap, that you're struggling, like to sit down and just say, what is my vision? What do I want? Will really help you get a little bit closer. Like Chris said, there's always something we can do. Sit down. Like my biggest struggle was like creating all those visions. And then how does Libby put them into one board so I can have a visual aspect? And we worked on it and I did it. And it's so funny because there's very simple things I wanted. Like I want to go back and take salsa classes. I used to dance salsa before I had Yaya. And I put it on my vision board and guess what? We're doing it.
Yep.
So just sitting down and saying, what do I want? What would make me feel great? then how do I incorporate this into my family? And then how does that vision, I do this every quarter. I review mine every quarter before the company quarterly for my business owners. So then when I go into my company quarterly, I know how much I can give of myself to the business because I've already taken care of myself and my relationship. And then I have this much room left for the company. Typically, we go in with, here's what the company needs from me, and my family and my marriage and myself get anything that's left over. And so again, it erodes that confidence. It erodes that ability to love ourselves because we're just giving. We keep giving to the business, giving to our kids, and then we give to our marriage, and then we're left over.
And I was going to say, and I don't know about you, whoever's watching right now, but I don't want to be in that position ever. To this feeling of lifelessness, of just not feeling the best I can. So I personally I'm now practicing, like I say, practicing extreme transparency.
I'm trying to tone mine down.
I'm trying to. I'm extreme transparency, forcing myself into uncomfortable situations. It's what I need. Honestly, I love the chaos, but it's also helping me to get past the things that are stopping me from taking the next steps for myself.
Yeah. So Erica said, thank you. This was perfect timing. So much needed. Ashley said she agrees. Janice said, we are both separate business owners and live crazy busy, but we make time for each other every day. Love that. That is so great. Intentionality. I pick a word every single year. It's like my word of the year to focus on. Last year was patience. The Latino side in me, I don't have any patience, like fast. Like, and we give so much credit to speed, right? But I was like, patience, because I am not patient. This year, my word was intentionality. Like everything I have to do has to have intention behind it and a reason. Why am I doing it? Because I would overcommit to absolutely everything.
Yeah. I also read the rest of what Jenna had just mentioned, and it struck with me because, the skin-to-skin contact.
Okay, so we're gonna get really personal right now. Jenna, I love this. Sometimes you just need skin-to-skin contact. So who here are the moms that when you have a baby, right? They always say the newborn, the skin-to-skin contact is the best thing for the baby. You know, you put them in your shirt, they sleep on you. It's the first thing when you give birth, they give them to you. But a 30-second hug, right, with no shirt on, and it helps. It does help. It helps. It's not just like and this is going to get like a little weird. It's not just like an intimate thing for your marriage, but it helps too. Like Yaya 6, and she just like wants a hug and she wants to touch your skin, like that skin to skin contact. But one of the best things that me and Chris ever did, and this is going to sound funny, and you guys are going to learn a whole new level about me and Chris here in a second, is learning to sleep with as little clothes on as possible with each other.
I'm laughing right now because I'm thinking to myself when I was wearing my baggy, looking like Jinko jeans.
So like because of the skin to skin contact, you get a sense of like fulfillment. So like learning to sleep with your spouse with as little clothes on as possible creates that skin to skin contact. Also a level of comfort that a lot of people need or seek, and you don't even know it.
So for me, it's like a complete emotional reset.
Mm-hmm. Yes. And so it was so funny because, he's so conservative. It took me years to try to get him to do that.
I would literally sleep in jeans. It was kind of crazy.
Yeah. But it's a great way to start to create that. Like even like Jenna said, a 30-second hug. And we all know it's true because we've seen the studies. We've had, for the moms, we've had babies. The doctors have told us that. Try it with your partner, though. Like Jenna said, a 30-second hug.
And so with your kids, I want to say this is even more important is your kids see it and know it as normal instead of not knowing what intimacy is, not knowing what happy looks like and connection.
That's like a whole topic in itself, is that when your kids see this relationship, Billy, my 26-year-old, saw the other one, And because of that, he's in dysfunctional relationships. And I told him, I'm like, sweetie, you got to break the mold. Like you got to break this generational, I don't even remember what it's called, chain. And, now Austin is 16 and then Yaya 6. And now Billy, who my 26-year-old too, sees what does a healthy relationship look like? What does parents who like actually, and don't get me wrong, I loved my ex. He was just had his own issues. But like, what does healthy look like? We're also teaching our kids, if you're that mom like I was that wasn't happy with themselves, avoided everything, didn't want to be touched, didn't want to be intimate. We're teaching our daughters and our kids and our sons the same thing. Now me and Chris are so close that our kids are jealous.
Yeah.
Our kids are jealous. Like Austin's like, Mom, what are you doing? You want to do something with me? Like, where are you going? Like, and Yaya's like, can I have a morning date?
Yeah.
Can I have a morning date with dad? So Yaya asked our 6-year-old, can I have a morning date with dad? Like you get mom with him. Can I have one too? And so your kids start to see this and crave it and want it as this is what good looks like, or this is healthy.
Yeah. So my goal is to be like the Fockers.
Oh yes.
Like Roz.
You're going to get taken off Facebook for saying that word.
It's a name.
Yes.
It's a name.
Yes. Yeah. He's talking about from the movie. Is it Meet the Parents?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Meet the Parents.
Yeah. So we love the couple, like she's the sex therapist, and we love that movie because that's who we want to be. They're on our invisible council. So me and Chris, we have like our visions and things we do in our scorecards, that whole couples retreat. And it's part of that is your personal vision and your personal stuff, but you have an invisible council. And you're like, who's on your invisible council? And Chris is like, I want the fuckers from Meet Your Parents on my invisible council.
Yeah.
I thought that was so cute and it was great, but true, because we all aspire to have that relationship. They even wanted it.
Yeah.
The parents from that movie, like the other set of parents.
Because they were raw and real. I think that's the great part about it.
Yep. And at the end of the day, you guys, when I say this out loud, our kids grow up and move away. Our employees, business is an evolution and they come and go. Right? They get promoted to other jobs. They have life-changing experiences. But at the end of the day, we're stuck with this person for more time than any other person in our life. Yes, our kids are still with us, but they move away. They grow up and have their own life. And we're just a supporting factor in that. So that's why I think this is so important. First, I'm always going to be with me. Mm-hmm. That's why me first, and then him next.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. All right, guys, this was a great talk. I love the uncomfortableness of like, why are they talking about sex on Facebook right now in a business setting or aspect? I love the uncomfortableness of it, but I also love how true and relevant it is and how it can affect our relationships. And where does it ultimately come from? Like, where does it stem from? And for me, it stemmed from my lack of confidence in not loving myself or being comfortable with myself. So I hope you guys have a great weekend. I'm going to go do something that is probably something I shouldn't be doing, but you know how sometimes you just want to disconnect from the world? I'm going to go power wash my lanai. I could hire someone, but I'm like, you know what? I want to do it myself.
Yeah. And then later we're going to go to a 50s.
Oh, then we're going to a salsa social. We're going to go salsa dancing.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. Awesome. So I hope you guys have a great weekend. Remember, intentionality. What are you doing this weekend to help build that confidence in yourself and with your marriage? Hope you guys have a great Saturday.
Bye, guys.